Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel. We're so glad you're here with us and hope you're enjoying our videos so far. Thanks for sticking with us while we're trying to learn all about YouTube and trying to get a little more calm as we go.
Yeah, this video is part of our new segment called Weekend Adventures, and this is video number 2. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and make sure to like this video because it helps others find it. It's part of those YouTube algorithms. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Our first adventure was a trip to Gostoff Amish Farms, and if you have not seen that video, we'll link it above. And today we're going to take you along with us on our latest weekend adventure to Boston. We had originally planned to go somewhere else, but the flights just did not cooperate. One of the flights at our airport was canceled, and so everybody kept bumping us on from the other flights. So we ended up choosing Boston because it was the only other available flight for the day. Random pick.
Just so you know, I work for an airline, and so we just kind of switch up when we feel like it. So
One of the perks of flying standby. So we ended up in Boston, and we found a hotel through one of the internet sites and got a really good rate on a beautiful hotel. We found out once we got there that Boston has very strict rules for masks and for vaccinations, and so we weren't sure exactly where we could go and what the requirements were for everywhere. So we ordered in the first night from a really good pizzeria. I think it was called The Bridge.
yes,
And you want to tell them about the food we ate from there?
the pizza was amazing. It was really good. We had that, and we had a chicken pasta.
It was Cajun chicken
Yeah,
pasta.
Cajun chicken pasta. So it had a little bit of heat and spice to it, and it was really, really delicious. And
The pizza had a garlic and olive oil base, and it was
Yeah.
more of a wood-fired kind of crust. And it had, I think, feta cheese and chicken and maybe some artichokes and spinach. It was very light alongside that thick and creamy pasta. It was so
Yeah.
good. And everybody that we ran into was very,
Super
very
friendly.
happy and friendly.
Yeah.
All the people in the hotel were happy. Our delivery driver was just the nicest guy. And so we don't usually do order in, so that was kind of neat to have room service for us. We enjoyed that, and the food was amazing. So if you're in Boston, the Bridge is awesome.
yes. So we next morning, of course, we had continental breakfast at the hotel, and it was very good. It had everything you'd want. You know, bacon, eggs. I think it even had biscuits and gravy.
I think so.
And yogurt, fruit cups. It had quite a bit of good stuff. It was good.
Kind of took us back to the old days when you actually had a warm continental breakfast. Everything was open back up, and the food was delicious.
Yep. And then because we had never been to Boston before, and we had plans to go somewhere else, we had no idea what we were going to do when we got there. So we were in the room the night before on
On our first night there.
Friday night, and we were looking up what is there to do in Boston. We thought about, oh, we'll try some seafood while we're there, and then of course that's when we found out that they had a lot of really strict regulations. So we figured, okay, we're not going to be able to do that. Let's find something else, and we decided to walk the Freedom Trail. So
One
Yeah.
thing you may not know, if you don't know us personally, is that this guy here is a huge Civil War era and Revolutionary War buff. Anything that has to do with history is right up his alley. And we were sitting there that night trying to figure out where we wanted to go, and we were wondering why in all the years we've been together that we never thought of Boston as being a place that we would enjoy. So it was actually a wonderful detour to go there.
Yeah.
I had no idea there was such a thing as a Freedom Trail.
Yeah, it was fascinating. I when I was younger in high school, I read Paul Revere's biography. Even I think I even might have wrote a book report on Paul Revere. He just fascinated me, and when I saw that his house was on the Freedom Trail, I came out of my skin. I was so excited. So yeah.
So we decided to make that our day because we did fly out that evening, and we knew we had limited time, and we wanted to take good advantage of the time we had there. So we left the hotel and headed for Boston Common, which is a big park in Boston. The day we were there, it was in February, midwinter, and you would expect it to be awful, but it was 60 degrees. I wore a short sleeve shirt and was comfortable all day. There were people everywhere walking their dogs and going to the bakeries and eating in the park, and it was just a perfect weekend to go. So we parked at Boston Common in the garage there, very reasonable parking for the day, and we took off on the walk. That was actually a good starting point for the Freedom Trail. So if you ever go and decide to do that walk like we did, that's a great place to start. We were about 2 miles away from Revere's house when we started, so it's about a 4-mile walk back and forth, but I believe we stopped and did all the things that we wanted to do on that trail, and it only took us maybe 3 hours total.
Yeah.
Maybe 4.
Yeah, 3 hours.
And we weren't winded at all because we were able to break it up. The stops kind of broke up the long walk.
Sorry, I'm moving a dog. He's about ready to hit the tripod there.
Say hi, Axel. Say hi, Axie. So our first stop was Faneuil Hall. Is that right?
No, it was the cemetery.
Oh, the cemetery. The cemetery where Paul Revere is buried.
Yes, Paul Revere is actually buried in that cemetery. There is, this is the cemetery where a lot of the people from the Boston Massacre are buried. And so it's a very historic cemetery. And it's really interesting to go through there and see names that you recognize from history. There is a big monument right there in the center. It says Franklin. It's not Ben Franklin. It is actually his parents that are buried there. So
we'll try to pop the picture up of that memorial that we got.
Yeah, so we walked through there. We got to see where a lot of famous people were buried there. There's even a president buried in there.
Very unique thing about this cemetery is that it is right in the middle of the city, surrounded by big buildings. I believe they're apartments now and some office buildings. But this cemetery sits on top of 2 springs. And because of that, people would come to visit their loved ones and would find that it had flooded. And they would occasionally find a casket or a corpse floating around, and so they decided to kind of shore it up and make it a little safer, a little more, I don't know. That would
non-scary.
That would be very scary. So it was very interesting to see that, and they had medallions for each of the people that were involved in the Boston Tea Party.
Yeah.
And that was really neat.
Yeah, it was. And after that, we walked towards Faneuil Hall, but we came across another cemetery. It was much smaller.
King's Chapel?
Yes.
Was that the name of the church? It's an old church in Boston
and
that still has services today.
In there was actually people buried in there that were from that actually were on the Mayflower. So that was fascinating.
We also passed one of the boats in the harbor where you can actually have a Boston Tea Party type tour but we couldn't find the parking for that, and because we were walking, we were driving. This was before we found Boston Common. So they do have tours where you can go and you can actually be in the harbor and you can throw tea off the side of the boat. So if that's something that you or your kids might enjoy, that sounded kind of neat to me.
Yep. And then we arrived at Faneuil Hall, and that. So there was some little shops when you walk inside. Now the Faneuil Hall is actually run by the national parks, and it's free to enter. There's no cost to tour it or anything. So that's a really good place to go if you're interested. And so there's a bunch of shops in the bottom there to pick up trinkets and things, and you can get your state parks pass,
National
Parks passport. That's right, stamped in there. So if you do collect those, that's where you get it done, as Faneuil Hall.
We have been wanting to get our passport started because a couple years ago we started visiting the national parks. And side note, national parks, if you are a veteran, you can get you can probably get a discount, but if you're a disabled veteran, you can get a lifetime pass. So definitely look into that and take your family, take trips and see the national parks.
Yep. The Great Hall was a really neat place because in that room is where a lot of the decisions were made in the initial part of our country fighting for its freedom and separating from Great Britain. So a lot of decisions were made there, and that's pretty much where the Great War started from.
So when we got done at Faneuil Hall, we went down toward Paul Revere's house and got to see it. They do have tours several days a week. They do have restrictions for vaccinations and masks and things. So if you do go, be aware and look that up online before you go. It was very neat just to see the house and the street. A lot of the streets were still cobblestone and brick. Very, very beautiful.
Something interesting to know, when you're on the Freedom Trail, because in the city sidewalk there is a narrow column of 2 bricks that you follow, and that is the trail, and it takes you from point of interest to point of interest. So if you get off that, you're going to get lost. If you stay on that, it's going to basically take you right to the next spot you want to go to. But as we were walking along, there was something that caught our eye, and we're going to talk about this here in a little bit, because we're going to finish talking about the Trail of Freedom first. But
don't get ahead of me.
But we were seeing something, and it was these little boxes that people were carrying, and
my first thought was that they were from maybe a Greek bakery, because they were white boxes with that royal blue line across them. And he said, I want to know what's in those boxes. And I said, I was just thinking about those boxes. And we finally got close enough to see them, and they were boxes from Mike's Pastry. Mike's is a must stop whenever you're in Boston. I believe they have 3 different locations, but the one was very close to Paul Revere's house. Mm-hmm. They have monster cannoli. They have, how many flavors would you say? 20?
Yeah.
20 to 25 different flavors of cannoli. And they also have these things, was it called a lobster tail?
It was, I think it was a
lobster tail. It was a big pastry with pastry cream in the middle.
That long.
Kind of the way they braided it, kind of looked, or cut it, it looked like an armadillo almost.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was about that big around, and tell them what it's filled with.
Filled with pastry cream. My favorite. We actually were able to take that on the plane and enjoy it on the ride home. Thankfully, TSA allowed us to keep it, and they didn't try to steal our Mike's Pastry.
Yeah.
So that's a must stop on your way. Our next stop was the church, the Old South Church.
Mm-hmm. North.
Old North. Sorry. See, I'm not the history buff. I messed up.
Yeah, from Paul Revere's house, you actually walk past his statue once you go around the corner. Um, there's a big statue of him in this long like alley, and supposedly that is the route he rode from the North Church to go and start warning people that the British were coming. And so that's why his statue is there, and then all the way down at the end of that little alley there is the North Church. When we went there on that day, the back gate, because you actually technically walk through there and you walk through the courtyard of the old North Church, but the back gate was closed and you had to go around the block, and it was really neat. Once you come around there, the bells were ringing, and it was fascinating to see that.
They're typically open for tours on several days during the week, but they were closed for a period of time, I believe like a 1 to 2 month period of time during February and some of March. So we were not able to go inside or even inside the courtyard. But they do still have church services there, and they're very welcoming of visitors. So that's definitely something you'll want to see on your trip to Boston.
And so we got done at the Old North Church, and we needed to start making our way back the 2.5 mile trek back to our car that was back in Boston Commons. And so on the way, we stopped at Mike's Pastry on the way back, and we, of course, bought us a box of pastries.
Just a side note, if you go, Mike is cash only.
Yes.
Mike's is cash only, so definitely take some cash with you.
And we were trying to decide where to eat lunch, because we were starting to get limited on time because we had to catch our flight out of Boston. It was truly just an overnight, just stay there for a day. So, yeah, we had to figure out where we were going to eat and do it quickly, get in the car and get to the airport.
We really got lucky on this one. It was a perfect day, like I told you earlier, and we decided that we would eat in the park, and we had driven by Guy Fieri's new restaurant. I think it's called Guy Fieri's Kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was 2 months old when we went, and it wasn't even showing up in the Google searches when I tried to find it. He actually has another restaurant down on the other side of town, but it's only open. It was only open at like 5 p.m. On those days, so it wasn't open for lunch. So I was able to get online and order us some food. Let me see. I think it was a bacon mac and cheese burger. And what was it that you got?
Pastrami.
Hot pastrami grinder. If you like grinder sandwiches, he said it was amazing. Yep. My burger, the actual burger patty, was one of the very best that I've had. And so we ordered our food from Faneuil Hall.
Yeah, I think we were in front of Faneuil Hall.
We had gotten back that far, and we put in our order, and it said about 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then on our way back, tell them what we found.
So the Holocaust Memorial, I've never seen anything like this before, and I've kind of looked at other memorials for the Holocaust. This one was these, I would say they were about 100 feet tall glass chambers that went straight up in the air, and it was just 4 sides of glass, and from the bottom, and you walk inside of it, and you can look straight up, and from the bottom all the way to the top on all 4 sides was little serial numbers of all the Jews from the Holocaust, and each column represented an individual concentration camp. And so that's how many columns there were. Was there like 5?
I believe there were 5. And inside each of those, when you walked in, I think 4 people could comfortably fit, because it was like open doorways on either side. And inside they had an account from a family member or a friend of someone who was in that camp talking a little bit, just a brief excerpt about their life and their story, and it was so powerful.
Yeah.
It was a sight to see, and you definitely would want to stop at that. It's like a small park that they've made there right in the center of town as well. So that was we were trying to figure out on our way down to Revere's house.
Because we walked by it and we were across the street, and I was like, what is that over there? Because there was no signs or anything until you actually walked up to it, and I was like, oh wow, we got to walk through this.
Now, when you go, if you go to Boston, you can sign up for a tour. They had several tour guides throughout the city, and they were dressed in period costumes as though they were the colonial Americans who were warning folks, and they would walk you down the Freedom Trail and give you all of the information. We just found a little roadmap for the Freedom Trail and kind of did it on our own time and spent more time at the things that were more interesting to us.
And since we were on a time crunch, we couldn't have gone with a tour anyway, because they stopped and they talked for quite a while. We actually came across one of them at the site of the Boston Massacre, and it was kind of neat to see the guy all dressed in an era costume, and it was kind of neat.
Our last stop was picking up our food at Guy Fieri's restaurant, and we ate in Boston Common. We met a couple of really cute little dogs that came up to us and wanted our food, and one of them rolled over and did something else.
He did a little. He got on his hind legs and did a little dance, and he like spun around or something when he was on his hind legs, just for a French fry.
I think his name was Puddles.
Yep, Puddles. That's
Puddles. And then we met another sweet little dog named, I can't remember what her name was, but her mommy had just gotten her a doggy treat from a local bakery. So there are dog bakeries right there in the park area that you can go to. And all in all, it was a wonderful stay. When we go on these trips, we try to make the most of our adventure. I do a lot of the research for us before we leave, to try to find points of interest and things that are fun to do that don't cost money or cost very little. We try to do it on a budget so that we're able to take more trips and just kind of enjoy spending time together, spending time outdoors, and just making memories. It's not so much about where you go, because we didn't even plan to go to Boston, but it turned out to be a magnificent trip. We were back home that next evening and able to finish out our weekend and prepare for the week ahead, and we're so glad you've come along. I hope you enjoy the video that's going to follow. A lot of the video is
Yes, there's a video that is going to play here next couple when we're done yapping our jaws, but it's only about 4 minutes long. So I hope you watch this. It is footage from everything we did except for the very opening. It's I purchased that aerial scene because I don't have anything to do something that high up. But it's all footage from our walk on the Freedom Trail, and it's been put to a nice music. It's kind of cinematic in a way, and so it's kind of neat to see. So I hope you enjoy it. And on a different note here, if you like these kind of videos and you want to, travel tips, because I would say we're like travel professionals, because we can literally pack a backpack and go. We don't we don't check
our luggage.
No.
We don't carry. This time we packed a backpack so that for our original destination we could just carry it with us the whole trip, and it does make the things really nice because you don't have to worry about all your stuff.
I mean, you can still take a tablet with you, still fit a camera. I mean, we've traveled with a carry-on suitcase and a backpack, so we're really good at it. I mean, we can show you tricks on how to efficiently pack, to where you can get actually a lot of clothes and a little carry-on. So we have we're a load of information on that. But so yeah, be sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button to let us know you really like these videos, and we will keep them coming. Trust me, we love to travel. If we can find a good excuse to get out of town and just go somewhere, we do it. Trust me.
Thanks so much for coming along and for being patient with us while we're learning and in these awkward moments at the very beginning of our new adventure on this YouTube channel. We hope you enjoy this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
We then went upstairs to the actual meeting hall.
I think it was called the Great Room.
Yeah.
The Great Hall.
Yeah, the Great
Great
Hall.
Hall.
And that was really neat. That's where a lot of the meetings took place for what pretty much kind of. I want to start that.
It's a great hall. This will be a great outtake.
Yeah. So.
Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel. Hope you've had a great week, and we're so glad that you've joined us again today.
Yeah, and this is part of our new series called. What is it called? I forgot.
Today we're premiering a new series called Weekend Adventures.
Okay, let's start that over again.
Okay.